Hello, I'm Claire Fox and I'm in Bolton. I'm really pleased to be here. I've just been told it's the largest town in England and lots of famous people are from here. But actually, for me, Bolton is famous because of Trevor. Because when he told me, I think over a year ago at the Stockport Change Politics for Good conference, which was one of the things that I organised at the end of being a Brexit Party MEP, I remember Trevor saying, I'm starting Bolton for Change. And I thought, what is that? And it was a new party. I'm also here with Nick Buckley, who's standing for Reform UK as the mayoral candidate. I'm going to talk to him in a minute. Just a few things that I wanted to say. As people will know, in this election, I'm not particularly supporting any party. I'm an independent peer in the House of Lords, I run the Academy of Ideas, and I'm entirely non-partisan. But what I am is passionate about politics and changing politics for good as it happens. And I just do not believe that the mainstream parties are doing us any favours whatsoever. In the House of Lords, you can barely tell the difference between them, if I'm honest. And the way that politics is working, ordinary people just do not have a voice, nobody's listening to them. Whether you're talking about low traffic neighbourhoods, whether you're talking about the cladding scandal and everything that's happening in relation to leaseholders being punished, whether you're talking about the people who are really the collateral damage of the lockdown policies, when you try and raise those things, you're met with more or less the same answers from Labour, Tories and Lib Dems. So, local elections come along and it's exciting. You know, in Wales you've got everything from the Abolish Party, which is trying to get rid of the Senedd. Reform UK is standing there. In Scotland you've got the Alliance for Change, which is George Galloway basically arguing for the union and all sorts of interesting things happening there. You've also got in London, where is what I'm largely based, you've got Reclaim standing, Lawrence Fox standing for mayor. You've got Reclaim standing in Scotland against the hate crime bill, absolutely right. Leo Kerr standing there. And all I'm saying is, the more parties there are challenging the status quo, the better, because we've got to shake things up. And we're coming out of lockdown now, slowly, and they won't give us our freedom back as though it's something that they own and they give out in dribs and drabs. But one thing that we do know is that we're going to have to kick-start society, big style, to get us back moving. And the best way to do that, I think, is to vote for change in these local elections. So I'm here to talk to somebody who is doing that. Right, so, Trevor, when I met you, you said you were going to start Bolton for Change. I have to confess,
you didn't think it was going anywhere, did you? You thought
it was going to happen. But it's a micro party. Tell us why you did it and what it's all about.
Well, we worked at, a lot of people know I stood as the Brexit Party candidate in Bolton North East. But once I'd finished that, I realised, going about Bolton and all the wards I'd spent my time in promoting myself, realised Bolton needed another party other than the Conservatives and Labour. It was crying out for it, and it wasn't just me doing it, anybody could have done it, but it needed it, and I think whoever would have done it, it would have been a success. It wasn't just down to me. And I just got this idea, listen, let's get it up and running, let's register it, let's get the colour orange, because obviously all the other colours are more or less gone.
Purely coincidental, this orange jumper, by the way.
Well, yeah. And honestly, it's just gone from strength to strength. And I can see it. You know, I mean, the Conservatives have been about something like 260 years. We're 14 months old. And now we're getting so much credit voting for things that we're picking up on a weekly basis. And I would say, in about 4 or 5 years, I think we'll be, probably, if it does to plan, the deciding party in Bolton. I can honestly see it, yeah.
Brilliant. Now, I know that nobody knows who's going to get elected, and I'm not going to put you on the spot on that, but the exciting thing for me, seeing the stall and talking to the people you got around, I know you've got stalls all around Bolton today, yeah. But the exciting thing for me is that it doesn't even matter. Of course it matters, you want people elected.
It'd be nice.
It'd be great, but all I'm saying is you're here for good, you're not a one-off thing. You're building strong, long-term, yeah?
Yeah, the Conservatives, like I said, are something like 260 years old, I forget, Labour's something like 70 years old. We're 14 months, and what we've achieved in 14 months, not just me, all the crew who's behind me, And like I said this morning, we've got gazebos all over the place. We're just trying to promote ourselves. It's not a case with us that people won't vote for us. People don't know we existed. And I've said to all our candidates, you know, knock on any door in Bolton and say, have you heard of the Labour Party? 99.9 will say, yeah. Have you heard of the Conservatives? Same again. Knock on and say, have you heard of Vote for Change? There's been 1 in 200 houses. We've got to get it so everybody, when you knock, if you did knock on the door, they say vote for change. Whether they vote for you or not, they know the name. And once we get that into people who understand, you know, who know we exist, I think then we'll take off like tomorrow.
All right, I'll come back to you about some of the issues that you're going to talk about, but I'm turning to Nick now. So Nick, I know you predominantly because you were one of the people who were brave enough to fight against cancel culture, and there was an attempt at destroying your reputation, destroying your livelihood around the charity that you set up because you had the temerity to go against the status quo when it came to the idea that we should all metaphorically take the knee to Black Lives Matter. And you, as an anti-racist, just said that's not the only way to fight for equality. And you fought and you won, and that was great, and with the help of the Free Speech Union and Don't Divide Us and all that. That's brilliant. And then, the next thing I know, you're standing as a mayoral candidate. What happened there? Now, you're standing for Reform UK.
Yeah.
Give us a bit of a flavour of why you're standing as a mayoral candidate against Andy Burnham. No disrespect, but you're not going to win, but you're making a mark. But why did you decide to do it?
I decided it was December, just gone, and Greater Manchester Police were put into special measures. And I've been critical of the Labour Mayor for several years, to do with buff sleeping, that we're not eradicating and doing enough with buff sleeping. And then the police went into special measures, and I found myself sat there moaning again about what's going on, and I decided, no more moaning, somebody needs to do something, and this is me trying to do something. And I decided I was going to stand, and I wanted to stand for a party, because I wanted some sort of machinery behind me to push me forward and to give me help and support, because what do I know about standing as Mayor of Greater Manchester? So I looked at the other parties that were, you know, I could possibly stand for. Labour was always going to be a no, and I looked at the Conservatives, and I've got some problems with Boris Johnson at the moment. I thought, well, I'm not standing for the Conservatives. And then I looked at some of the new parties, and the reason why I decided on Reform was because we were brand new, 7 months old, and didn't have an array of policies and aims that I had to agree with and I had to espouse even if I didn't agree with them. And I had a conversation with Richard Tice, and we talked about future policies, and the conversation was really around that they want me to help set some policies in the future. And I thought, well, this is the party for me. Get in there at the beginning and help shape how we're going to improve society.
So one of the things that I'm interested in is really kick-starting democracy and rejuvenating democracy, because I'm not going to go down the Brexit route, it doesn't matter, but one of the slogans that worked in Brexit was take back control, because people had a sense that they had no control over their lives. And I think that one of the problems is you can bring back democratic accountability once you've got Brexit, but it doesn't mean you get democracy, really. You've got to then fight for that each and every time. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, it's difficult because you're not getting media support, are you? How are you trying to get that kind of democratic spirit alive in your campaign?
For me, social media. I always knew at the beginning this election was going to be fought on social media, mainly due to COVID. And I knew I wasn't going to get the same mainstream press attention as the main parties, because that never happens anywhere. So I already knew that. So with social media, I've been spending 6-7 hours a day on Facebook and Twitter and other platforms. I've also been going out to meet other local candidates like Trevor with Bolton for Change today, supporting them because they're not standing for mayor. I'm going to Stockport later today, and I've been all over Greater Manchester. So it's about getting the message out there, and it's about what that message is. And I think what I'm trying to say to people is, it's okay living in a democracy, it's okay having the right to vote, but if you're that disillusioned with the process and you've no intentions of voting, then you're never going to change anything.
I really enjoyed your film where you had the 3 Manchester mayoral candidates and you were sitting outside a pub and you were talking about things.
Yeah.
In other words, you created your own debate there and your own media, didn't you? And it was nice because you were opposing each other, but you were actually had something in common in as much as you were grassroots campaigners.
Exactly, so it was someone's back, one of their medal candidates' back gardens.
Oh,
None of
not a
us,
pub.
it looked like a beer garden, it was a nice house, not like my house. And none of us had been invited onto the TV debates. And we got together and thought, this is unfair, you know, just getting the main parties on TV. So we decided to, let's all get together in someone's back garden, over a beer, let's get a video camera and let's just have a conversation, talk about politics and policies, and let's see where that goes. And it was a really good 1.5 hour chat.
It was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed it. It was great fun, and I wanted to be there and join in, so that's always good. Just on policies, you've mentioned rough sleeping, you've mentioned the policing issue, but I know that another one is you're talking about the fact that you have to pay to drive effectively. Do you just want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so the Labour Mayor next year is bringing in a new congestion charge to the whole of Greater Manchester. They're calling it the Clean Air Zone. It's a great little title because who's against clean air?
Yeah,
so let's call it something you can't disagree with. But it's a congestion charge. It starts off with commercial vehicles, but in a couple of years they will be coming after everyone's cars. And we're looking at £7.50 to drive per day anywhere in Greater Manchester. And if you've got a big lorry or a big van, it can be up to £60 a day. We've got businesses coming out of this COVID epidemic failing, and we're going to give them a new tax. All this anti-car rhetoric, I've had enough of this anti-car rhetoric. Cars are fantastic. We need to look at pollution, we need to reduce pollution, but let's not get rid of everyone's cars.
A lot of it's drug related, they're buying drugs, people are dropping them off in the morning, picking them up at night, and they're making a good living out of it.
Let me just jump over here now. So you work with the homeless. Is this a bit of a... is he slandering the homeless?
I'm finding it business.
No, the vast majority of people you see on the streets begging and not love sleeping, they have accommodation. They're still broken people, they still need help and support, but what they don't need is extra money to buy drugs, because those drugs damage them even more, puts them into a destructive cycle, and basically they're tomorrow's rough sleepers if we don't solve their problem today.
Right, so I was just clarifying, right?
It's roughly the same. We listen, anybody who's, you know, genuine case, give them all the help and assistance they need, but get them off drugs and get them off walking in between traffic. It's intimidating. It's now just a case of let's bang on somebody's window and ask for a couple of quid. And you've got lone ladies, lone older people on their own, vulnerable people, and they don't. And sometimes they're in a group.
Yeah.
And you know, we had one lady in the boot of a car in Sainsbury's car park, and they're tapping on her shoulder for the pound coin for the trolley. She lifted her head up and cut her head up on the boot of a car. You can't have it. You can't have it. We've got them everywhere.
So what about, the other thing I wanted to ask you was just in terms of getting the, you know, industry might be overstating it, but what about the local economy? Can a group like yours actually do anything about that? Because all you hear from the Tories is levelling up and, you know, it's going to be brilliant in places like Bolton because the Tories are going to save you, Trevor. Do you know?
No, the Tories are saving nothing. They can't even save themselves. I mean, I wonder about Bolton. I've been in Bolton, obviously, since the 60s, since I was born, and I've seen these places change tremendous. I remember this market hall behind us when it was all individual stalls. It's fantastic. And this street used to have a couple of thousand people on a Saturday. Now you've got a few hundred. So obviously, something's gone wrong. And they keep blaming it on, Amazon have taken all the business. But look at Bury, 2 mile up the road, thriving. You know, they're doing okay. So obviously, it's not Amazon completely. So we just need to change things. But the way this council thinks, it's just no thought process. They don't think things out and think, right, if we do that, that will happen. We do this. What they do, they'll have people whizzing around car park attendants and traffic wardens having a go at you because you're 2 minutes over your time, trying to make a few quid off a parking ticket when they just lost 30 quid worth of business in the shop.
Yeah.
You know, they're shutting shop, they're hounding you, there's nowhere to park. They have the old bus station closed just over here, Moor Lane. They had a fantastic opportunity to have a big, massive free car park right in the heart of the town centre. And they could have brought them all back from the traffic centre and old Middlebrook, who shop in Norwich, the Middlebrook. And they could have had more people coming here thinking, listen, I've got free parking, I'll go in town, I'll go and have a coffee in these kind of places, and I'll have a mill around, and people start coming back. When people come back, shops reopen. And you've just got to have that kind of mindset. They don't seem to have it.
You know, one of the things is, it's just so interesting you're saying that, because apart from anything else, this is the kind of conversation the council should be having, isn't it? Where you have these kind of, you know, we might not all agree, but you just actually think about what the consequences are. And you're saying, I mean, you're not with the programme here because this is, as Grant Shapp said, the Transport Minister, the era of cycling and walking. We don't want car parks, Trevor, for God's sake.
Exactly. We've just had so many cycle lanes. I'm thinking of buying a bike. The cycle lanes, honestly, we've got more cycle lanes now than people. Every time you pull up, they put a cycle lane in. I've never seen this. Oh, there's one going by. First time I've seen a cyclist, and he's pushing it.
Yeah.
So no, it's a case of we've got to look at things totally different. It's not all about just cycle lanes and things like that. It's about really building the place up again how it used to be, and it can be done. But we've got limited time now, and I think once we lose that time, we're a big mess.
Right. I'm going to come to you both now for just your last message to the nation. Just give us a thought on what you really want to get out of this and what you're going to be doing moving forward, I suppose. What is the kind of big message? My reflection is that, talking to you two, is if more ordinary people were involved in politics, then something lacking in British political life would be gained. Common sense. And the ability to not be offended and to say things and to clarify and to not go in a panic, and we could probably all have a row about lots of things and we wouldn't go off in a strop. We're not going to shout, cancel him, I'm offended. Free speech for me is one of the big things, and actually bringing more people into politics will make a big difference. But what's your message for the nation, as they say?
For me, it's vote. At the last mayoral election, only 28% of the population of Greater Manchester voted. And out of that 28%, you only need 14 to win. So politicians know this, hence why they only pay attention to 14% of the people in Greater Manchester, because that's all they need to win. If everybody else voted, it doesn't matter who you vote for, your voice then matters, and politicians will start paying attention to you over time, not immediately, but over time, and that's how we change things.
Brilliant. Trevor?
Well, this lockdown, from our party point of view, this lockdown has done us a lot of harm, but we've not been able to get out and promote ourselves like I wanted to. And I know what point we would have been at, but for this lockdown, I think now we've been a formidable force in Bolton. We're going nowhere. If we don't get nobody in, we're not going nowhere. We're just continuing, and we can only go. When your lowest point, you can only go one way, and that's up. And we will go up, and we'll stick with it. And yeah, I'm going to predict in a couple of years' time we'll be, a full-size big party in Bolton.
Well, I wish you both well. I also hope that as time goes on, when we get out of this lockdown, when we start having public meetings in Bolton, in Greater Manchester, that you'll invite me back to speak, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it's £5 a go.
Yeah, exactly. And also, we've got our big Battle of Ideas festival that the Academy of Ideas runs in October, and I really hope that you bring a big contingent down, because I'd love to have people here at the heart of Westminster having the arguments. And of course, I'm going to have you speaking, so there's no question on that, Nick. We're going to have you speaking on either free speech, homelessness, or any of the other things. But it's been a real pleasure. I wish you well in the last few days. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.